The moment didn't look dramatic at first. It was just another football interview, another coach, another round of routine questions, but then something shifted. Kevin Stefanski was asked about Shedeur Sanders, and everything changed. You could see it, the pause, the tight smile, the careful wording. He said he had zero ill will. He said he loved coaching those guys. He said it wasn't fair to comment. On paper, it sounded clean, professional, harmless. But to fans watching closely, it didn't feel harmless at all. Because this wasn't just a random question. This was about a quarterback whose name has been attached to controversy, speculation, and nonstop debate for months. And when Stefanski tried to brush it off, it didn't calm anything down. It reignited the fire. Social media caught it instantly. Clips of the interview spread within minutes. Fans replayed the tone, the body language, the way he seemed almost defensive before he even finished the sentence. Comment sections exploded with theories. Some claimed he was dodging accountability. Others argued he was simply protecting himself. Either way, the reaction was loud. And here's the thing, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. There's already been buzz around how Shedeur was handled. Online discussions have questioned development decisions, depth chart moves, and whether everything behind the scenes was as smooth as it looked publicly. None of it officially confirmed, but the conversation has been building. So when Stefanski tried to shut it down with a few carefully chosen sentences, it didn't land the way he might have hoped. Instead, it felt like confirmation to some fans that something deeper had been there all along. Sports talk shows picked it up almost immediately. Analysts dissected the phrasing. Debate panels asked whether coaches sometimes hide behind no comment when there's more to the story. And suddenly, what was supposed to be a simple interview clip became headline material. But that wasn't the most interesting part. The real shift happened when whispers started connecting this moment to what's unfolding elsewhere. Because Stefanski isn't operating in isolation. His reputation travels with him, and players around the league are always watching. That's what made this interview different. It wasn't just about what he said. It was about timing, about context, about history that some believe never fully disappeared. And as the clip kept circulating, one question started dominating the conversation. Was this just a coach protecting his image, or was this the first crack in a much bigger story? Because if you think this was just an awkward interview moment, think again. This is where the narrative truly began to spiral. Long before the interview clip went viral, long before fans started dissecting body language and tone, the conversation had already started in Cleveland. That's where many believe the tension first took shape. When Kevin Stefanski was leading the Browns, the organization was already under a microscope. Quarterback instability, media pressure, constant playoff expectations. Every decision felt amplified. And in that environment, even small moves can spark big reactions. Now add a young quarterback with massive attention surrounding his name. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just another prospect in the public eye. As the son of Deion Sanders and one of the most talked-about young QBs in football, he carried built-in spotlight. Every snap, every rep, every sideline moment would have been analyzed, fairly or not. And that's where online speculation began to grow. Some fans started questioning how young quarterbacks were developed within that system. Others debated whether opportunities were evenly distributed. Depth chart movements, play-calling choices, and sideline interactions became fuel for discussion threads and talk show segments. To be clear, there's no official confirmation of sabotage or wrongdoing. But in today's NFL media cycle, perception spreads fast, sometimes faster than facts. What intensified things was the timing. Cleveland's quarterback room has been anything but stable in recent seasons. Injuries, performance debates, contract drama, it created a pressure cooker. And when a team struggles to find consistent rhythm under center, fans inevitably look toward coaching. Every incomplete pass becomes a coaching critique. Every benching becomes a narrative. Every comment becomes a clue. Reports at the time didn't confirm tension between Stefanski and any specific player, but rumors circulated in online spaces suggesting that development decisions weren't sitting right with certain observers. Some fans believed young talent wasn't being maximized. Others defended Stefanski, pointing to system fit and long-term strategy. The divide grew louder. Sports radio in Cleveland thrives on quarterback controversy. That's no secret. And when discussions started blending real roster questions with speculation about internal dynamics, it created a storm of its own. Then came the social media era of analysis. Clips from press conferences were slowed down. Sideline exchanges were zoomed in. Expressions were interpreted like evidence in a courtroom. What might have once been normal coaching decisions suddenly became debate material across the country. And once that narrative forms, it rarely disappears quietly. Because here's what makes the NFL different: players talk, agents talk, executives talk, reputation travels. Even unproven tension can linger if enough people repeat it. So by the time Stefanski faced questions in that recent interview, some fans weren't hearing neutral answers. They were hearing echoes of everything they believed started in Cleveland. Fair or not, that's the weight of perception in professional football. But what truly accelerated the conversation wasn't just off-field speculation. It was what happened during key on-field moments that gave fans something tangible to point at. And that's when the debate shifted from whispers to evidence, at least in the eyes of those watching closely. It wasn't the press conferences that really fueled the debate. It was the moments on the field. Because in the NFL, perception is built snap by snap, and once fans start questioning decisions, every play feels like proof. There were stretches during Cleveland's offensive struggles where viewers began dissecting everything: play calling patterns, timing of substitutions, even situational decisions late in games. Some fans felt the offense looked conservative at times. Others argued it was simply execution. But when a quarterback room feels unsettled, every series becomes a talking point. What intensified the debate were key in-game sequences that people online couldn't stop replaying. A promising drive stalls. A quarterback rotates in or out. A big play isn't followed by momentum. Individually, those moments happen on every NFL team. But when there's already speculation surrounding development and trust, they start to carry extra weight. There were games where flashes of talent sparked excitement, sharp throws, confident pocket movement, leadership in high-pressure moments. Social media would light up instantly. Clips would circulate with captions like, "Future QB1," or "Why isn't this the full-time plan?" Then in the next quarter, momentum might shift. A different decision, a different rotation, a different outcome. That contrast is what really drove the conversation. Some analysts defended the coaching strategy, arguing that development isn't linear. That building a franchise quarterback requires patience and system alignment. They pointed to protection issues, receiver separation, and overall roster balance. But fans who were already skeptical didn't see patience. They saw hesitation. Sports debate shows jumped in. Was the offense tailored correctly? Was the staff fully committed to a long-term plan? Was there internal disagreement about direction? None of those questions came with confirmed answers, but the more they were asked, the more they felt real. And then there's the NFL spotlight factor. Primetime games amplify everything. A single nationally televised miscommunication can feel 10 times larger than it would on a Sunday afternoon regional broadcast. When cameras linger on sideline conversations or catch a tense expression after a stalled drive, narratives write themselves. Even body language became content. Slow motion, clips of headset conversations. Zoomed-in reactions after a missed opportunity. Commentators speculating in real time. Fair or not, those visuals stuck. The truth is, coaching decisions are rarely as simple as fans believe. Game plans shift weekly. Personnel packages change based on matchup, and quarterbacks develop at different speeds. But once a storyline forms, especially around a high-profile name, every snap feels like validation of whatever side you're on. And that's exactly what happened. The on-field moments didn't prove sabotage. They didn't confirm tension. But they gave the debate something concrete to hold on to. And once that debate caught national attention, it stopped being just a Cleveland conversation. Because when perception crosses team lines, it follows people wherever they go. And that's when the focus shifted from what happened during games to what might happen next in a completely different city. When the Atlanta Falcons made their coaching move, the headline felt simple. New city, new locker room, fresh start. On the surface, that's how it always works in the NFL. A coach changes teams, resets the narrative, and builds something new. But this time, the reaction didn't feel clean. It felt divided. Because the moment the hire became official, the conversation didn't start with schemes or culture. It started with history. Fans immediately connected dots. Online threads resurfaced debates from Cleveland. Old clips began circulating again. Comment sections filled with one question: is this really a fresh start, or is Atlanta inheriting unfinished business? To be clear, there were no official reports of locker room chaos, no confirmed player revolts. But in today's league, perception travels faster than press releases, and the Falcons fan base is plugged in. Some supporters welcomed the hire, pointing to experience and previous success. Others weren't so sure. They questioned whether lingering narratives could follow into a new environment. Then came the player speculation. Names like Kyle Pitts started popping up in online discussions, not because of any confirmed statements, but because fans were projecting. Pitts is one of Atlanta's most valuable young stars. Whenever a new coach arrives, people naturally wonder, will he maximize the talent? Will he reshape the system? Will stars buy in? There's no evidence that Pitts or anyone else publicly opposed the hire, but whispers don't need proof to trend. And that's what made this moment interesting. The NFL is a league built on relationships. Players talk across teams. Agents share opinions. Former teammates compare experiences. Even if nothing dramatic is happening behind closed doors, the mere idea that a coach carries controversy can influence perception. Reputation matters. Free agents consider coaching stability. Draft prospects evaluate development track records. Veterans want to know they're stepping into clarity, not confusion. So when online chatter suggested that Atlanta players might be watching closely, it added another layer. Again, not confirmed conflict, but awareness. Because once a narrative exists, it becomes part of the environment. What makes this different is the timing. The Falcons are in a critical phase. They're trying to build consistency. They're trying to regain national relevance. The last thing any organization wants is off-field noise overshadowing on-field progress. And yet, that noise followed almost instantly. Some analysts dismissed it as overblown social media drama. Others argued that perception can quietly shape morale if not addressed quickly. The truth likely sits somewhere in the middle. But here's what can't be ignored. When a coach changes cities, and the first wave of discussion isn't about football strategy, that says something. Is Atlanta getting a leader ready to rewrite his story? Or are they stepping into a narrative that hasn't fully settled? That question alone is enough to keep the spotlight bright. And what makes it even more intriguing is how former players and subtle social media moves started adding fuel to the conversation. In today's NFL, you don't always need a press conference to feel tension. Sometimes, all it takes is a post. As soon as the Atlanta hire started trending, fans began scanning social media for clues. Former teammates, subtle captions, unfollow rumors, cryptic emojis. In a league where players rarely speak openly about internal dynamics, the internet becomes the detective. One name that kept surfacing in discussions was David Njoku. When Njoku shared that his time in Cleveland was coming to an end, it wasn't framed as drama. It was professional, appreciative, standard farewell language. But timing matters, and fans immediately started connecting dots, even if there were no direct statements tying anything together. To be clear, there has been no confirmed link between Njoku's departure and any alleged tension involving coaching decisions. But online speculation doesn't wait for confirmation. Comment sections began asking, did he see something firsthand? Did locker room dynamics leave a lasting impression? Would he follow familiar leadership to a new city or avoid it? Again, no verified answers, just curiosity fueled by timing. And that's the thing about social media in the modern NFL. Silence can be interpreted as a statement. A like can become a headline. A neutral quote can turn into a theory. Fans also revisited older sideline clips, teammate reactions during games, body language between players and staff. Moments that seemed insignificant at the time were suddenly being reframed as evidence. Was there real tension? Or are fans projecting narrative onto normal football emotion? It's impossible to say definitively, but perception doesn't need proof to influence conversation. Even current players, though not publicly commenting, are likely aware of the noise. Athletes live online just like everyone else. They see trending topics. They hear the debates. And when your new head coach carries a storyline, fair or unfair, it naturally becomes part of the locker room atmosphere. What's fascinating is how quickly digital breadcrumbs can shape reputation. A former player posts a vague message about new beginnings. Another tweets something about loyalty. Fans begin building threads, tying everything together. None of it confirmed. All of it amplified. And once amplification reaches national sports media, the narrative gains legitimacy simply through repetition. But here, where it gets interesting. While former teammates and social chatter stirred questions, the other side of this story was moving in the opposite direction. Because while speculation surrounded coaching dynamics, Shedeur's public profile continued climbing. Brand momentum, highlight reels, national attention. The contrast was striking. One storyline fueled by whispers, another fueled by performance and visibility. And that contrast is what truly shifted the energy of this entire situation. Because when one reputation becomes uncertain and another keeps rising, the spotlight doesn't split evenly. It intensifies. And that's exactly what happened next. While debates swirled around coaching decisions and locker room whispers, Shedeur Sanders was doing something far more powerful. He was building momentum. Noise has a strange effect in sports. It can either drown a player out or amplify them. And in Shedeur's case, every controversy seemed to add fuel instead of friction. Even before stepping onto an NFL field, his name already carried weight. Being the son of Shedeur Sanders guaranteed attention. But what's kept that attention alive isn't legacy, it's performance. At Colorado, under the brightest spotlight in college football, Shedeur didn't shrink. He delivered big yardage games. He showed poise under relentless pressure. He played behind a shaky offensive line and still stood tall in the pocket. Those moments didn't just trend, they traveled. Every highlight clip became a statement. Every clutch throw became a reminder. And as conversations about coaching decisions and player development floated around the league, Shedeur's brand only grew stronger. It's hard to ignore that contrast. On one side, speculation about system fit and internal dynamics. On the other, a quarterback stacking impressive performances in front of national audiences. Nil deals followed. National media features expanded. Debate shows stopped questioning whether he belonged in the spotlight and started asking how high his ceiling really is. That shift matters. Because once a player moves from potential controversy to legitimate star trajectory, the narrative changes tone. Instead of asking whether he was mishandled, analysts begin asking whether he was underestimated. And that's where resilience becomes part of the story. Shedeur has rarely addressed outside noise directly. No public feuds, no emotional interviews firing back. Instead, he's leaned into preparation and production. That quiet response can sometimes speak louder than any tweet. Fans notice that. So do executives. In the NFL ecosystem, decision-makers pay attention to how young quarterbacks handle pressure. Not just defensive pressure, media pressure, narrative pressure, expectation pressure. And by most public measures, Shedeur hasn't flinched. In fact, the spotlight seems to sharpen him. What makes this rise even more compelling is timing. As questions surround coaching reputations and team direction elsewhere, Shedeur's trajectory feels upward and steady. That visual contrast is powerful in a league driven by optics. It doesn't mean controversy was real. It doesn't confirm tension existed. But it does highlight something undeniable. When chaos surrounds a situation, and one figure continues ascending, perception begins tilting in their favor. And that tilt is starting to influence how the broader league views everything connected to this storyline. Because as Shedeur's stock rises, another organization is facing uncertainty at the most important position in football. And that uncertainty might be the missing piece that explains why this entire narrative refuses to fade. If there's one thing Cleveland has never lacked, it's quarterback drama. For years, the Browns have rotated through starters, prospects, veterans, and experiments, always searching for stability at the most important position in football. And when a franchise lives in that kind of uncertainty, the media narrative almost writes itself. Every season becomes a referendum. Every camp battle becomes a headline. Every rumor becomes oxygen. Right now, that carousel hasn't slowed down. Between Deshaun Watson's complicated situation, injury concerns, contract pressure, and performance inconsistency, Cleveland's quarterback room remains one of the most discussed in the league. Reports and speculation have linked the team to potential draft picks, veteran signings, and trade possibilities. Names float in and out of the rumor mill weekly. Russell Wilson has been mentioned in online discussions. Malik Willis rumors have popped up. Even draft prospects are constantly tied to Cleveland mock scenarios. To be clear, many of these are speculative connections fueled by analysts and insiders trying to read the tea leaves. But speculation in Cleveland spreads fast, because history tells fans to expect change. And here, where the narrative deepens. When a team appears unsure at quarterback, people start revisiting past decisions. They ask whether development was handled correctly. They question if opportunities were missed. They re-examine coaching choices with fresh skepticism. That's exactly what's happening now. Instead of fully committing to a long-term direction, Cleveland seems to be exploring options. Competition talk is back. Draft chatter is loud. And when that happens, fans naturally wonder, was the previous evaluation flawed? Media debate thrives on that tension. Local radio hosts argue about loyalty versus logic. National analysts frame Cleveland as a franchise that never quite settles at QB. And in that storm of commentary, previous coaching narratives get dragged back into the spotlight, even if circumstances have changed. The problem with a quarterback carousel is simple. It creates doubt. And doubt invites storytelling. Was someone overlooked? Was someone mismanaged? Was the system too rigid? Or was the talent not quite ready? None of those questions come with easy answers, but once they're asked repeatedly, they start shaping perception. What makes it more complex is that Cleveland isn't alone in quarterback instability. Several NFL teams juggle uncertainty every year, but few carry the historical weight that the Browns do at that position. So when rumors swirl again, when mock drafts link them to another passer, when insiders hint at competition, it reinforces the idea that the situation remains unresolved. And unresolved situations attract narratives. That's why this storyline refuses to disappear. It isn't just about one coach or one player. It's about a franchise that hasn't fully found peace at quarterback and the ripple effects of that uncertainty. Because in the NFL, instability at QB doesn't stay contained. It spills into coaching reputations. It shapes locker room confidence. It fuels league-wide perception. And that perception is now influencing how the entire situation is being viewed beyond Cleveland. Step back from the names for a second, and you start to see something bigger. This isn't just about one coach. It isn't just about one quarterback. It's about a pattern the NFL repeats over and over again. Young quarterbacks enter the league carrying massive expectations. They're drafted to change franchises overnight. They're compared to legends before they've started 10 games. And when results don't instantly match hype, the blame game begins. Sometimes it lands on the player. Sometimes it lands on the coach. Often it lands on both. The league moves fast, too fast for patience. A rookie struggles, he's labeled a bust. A coach rotates quarterbacks, he's accused of mismanagement. A team hesitates, it's called dysfunction. And once a narrative sticks, it spreads league-wide. Think about how quickly reputations form. One rough season can brand a coach as outdated. One controversial benching can define a quarterback's early career. One viral clip can overshadow months of solid work. The NFL isn't just competition, it's storytelling. Every Sunday creates characters. Every offseason rewrites reputations. And social media has supercharged the cycle. A single sideline clip becomes a trending debate. A vague quote becomes a theory. Fans build timelines, analysts speculate, and before long, perception starts feeling like fact. That's the bigger pattern at play here. Coaches change cities hopping for a reset. Quarterbacks switch systems hopping for clarity. But the league's memory doesn't fully reset. Agents talk. Players compare notes. Executives evaluate history before making decisions. Reputation follows you. Sometimes it's fair. Sometimes it's exaggerated. But it's always present. Another pattern. Quarterbacks become lightning rods for franchise instability. When a team struggles, the QB absorbs pressure. When a coach struggles, the QB becomes part of the debate. And if both are developing at the same time, the situation gets messy fast. History shows it repeatedly. Young passers labeled too early. Coaches blamed too quickly. Franchises pivoting before patience pays off. And when that happens, hindsight becomes brutal. Fans look back and say, they should have committed. Analysts say, the signs were there. Players say nothing, but they remember. That's why this situation resonates beyond one team. Because it mirrors something familiar. An organization searching for stability. A coach carrying scrutiny. A young quarterback navigating spotlight. A media cycle hungry for conflict. The truth is, the NFL rarely offers clean storylines. It thrives on tension, on debate, on uncertainty. And the pattern suggests one thing. Whoever performs consistently through the noise usually wins the long game. Narratives fade. Production lasts. So the real question isn't whether controversy exists. It's who rises above it when the cycle inevitably turns again. Because in this league, it always does. At the end of all this noise, the interviews, the speculation, the quarterback debates, what's really being tested isn't just talent. It's legacy. The NFL has a way of stripping everything down to two things: results and reputation. Coaches are judged by how they build. Quarterbacks are judged by how they respond. And when controversy enters the picture, ego becomes part of the equation whether anyone admits it or not. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about professional football: control matters. Coaches want control of the locker room. Quarterbacks want control of the offense. Front offices want control of the narrative. And when that control feels threatened, even slightly, tension can grow. Not always publicly, not always dramatically, but subtly enough for people to notice. That's why this storyline refuses to disappear. It's not just about whether decisions were right or wrong. It's about how those decisions are remembered. If a young quarterback rises despite chaos, the story becomes one of resilience. If a coach changes cities while debate follows him, the story becomes one of scrutiny. Fair or unfair, perception shapes legacy almost as much as wins and losses do. And the league is always watching. Players across teams observe how organizations handle pressure. Agents pay attention to development track records. Future free agents weigh stability against uncertainty. Draft prospects study which systems elevate talent and which ones stall momentum. Reputation isn't local in the NFL. It's national. That's why this situation carries weight beyond Cleveland or Atlanta. It represents a crossroads. On one side, a coach attempting to reinforce credibility in a new environment. On the other, a quarterback building upward momentum while staying largely silent amid the noise. Two different responses to the same spotlight. Ego can derail careers in this league. But so can impatience. So can miscommunication. So can simple bad timing. The difference between redemption and regret often comes down to how the next chapter unfolds. Because here, what history shows, the NFL rarely rewards excuses, it rewards production. If a coach wins, narratives fade. If a quarterback performs, doubts dissolve. If a franchise stabilizes, controversy becomes footnote. But if instability continues, the story hardens. Right now, the league is observing quietly, not reacting loudly, not making public judgments, just watching how everything develops. And that may be the most important part. Because when the next season kicks off, none of the interviews will matter. None of the rumors will matter. None of the speculation threads will matter. Only performance will. Legacy isn't built in comment sections. It's built on Sundays. So the real question is whether there was tension. It isn't whether perception was fair. The real question is simple. When the spotlight returns and the games begin, who proves the narrative wrong and who proves it right?
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.